When is electricity cheapest? It's in the middle of the day. It's actually negative pricing. Where are the vehicles parked? They're at work. So if everybody were to be driving their vehicle to work, charging on a low-speed level 2 charger from rooftop solar at the school, at the parking lot, at the mall, at the government building, and then drive that vehicle home, they're basically driving that cheap power home. And now they can use it at night when it's really expensive.
If you've been wondering, what is the deal with vehicle to ... Vehicle to everything is all the conversation around mobile battery energy storage for the last 3, 4, 5 years in the industry. Well, you are in luck because I have someone who's become quite an expert on the topic, someone who has been in the industry as a pioneer for years, always out ahead of his peers, Mr. Barry Cinnamon of Cinnamon Energy Systems. We're live in Reno, Nevada at the NABCEP 2025 conference. We're coming to you from the SunCast media stage, which is brought to you by PV Amps, Open Solar, TerraHive, CPS, and Franklin Whole Home. Thank you for tuning in. Barry, thank you for taking time to swing by the stage with us.
Terrific to be here, Nico. And yeah, we're talking about some of my most favorite subjects.
You do like to geek out and tinker, so I'm excited to hear some of the things that you have been experimenting with. And I want to start around helping folks kind of understand or disambiguate a lot of these acronyms. We've got V to H and ESS and V to X and VPP. Can we talk a bit about why you believe that V to H, or vehicle to home, has a likely chance of success where vehicle to everything, as Chevrolet and others dubbed it, rarely get past the pilot state?
All right, I'm going to break it down into 2 segments.
Go for it.
The first segment is how can you reduce the costs for end users, for homeowners,
right,
for people who have an ESS, an energy storage system at home. Yeah. And that's one benefit. The second benefit that's out there is how can utilities benefit from that?
Okay.
So unfortunately, what's happened, because the money is with the utilities, is the utilities have been pushing utility-centric V to X systems.
Right.
Very similar to VPP, but it's utility-centric. It's how the utilities can improve their profits,
right,
with maybe a couple of peanuts going out to the customer.
That's right.
So, and customers, what they really want to do is reduce their energy costs.
That's right.
And vehicle to home can do that, but there have historically been a lot of regulations and code in the way of that. But there's a way around it, and that's what we were showing here at the NABCEP conference.
Well, we'll definitely show folks the video that you guys have made with Franklin Whole Home, which is quite impressive, the way that you're utilizing your mobile battery system and your stationary energy conversion devices at your home, along with your solar storage, or your solar power system.
Hey Chuck, I hear you're low on juice.
Franklin Whole Home is pleased to release the vehicle-to-home functionality. This feature allows you to connect the AC output from certain vehicles directly to the generator AC input of the Franklin Home battery system. With this new feature, you can use your vehicle's battery to power your home and to recharge your Franklin batteries without expensive extra equipment.
In this home, which is fully electric with 2 Franklin batteries and rooftop solar panels, the batteries are at a low state of charge due to wet and wild weather.
With this weather, my heat pumps will completely drain my batteries tonight. I could use a boost to keep my home comfortable and my family happy.
To provide enough energy to get through the night, we're connecting the 9.2 kilowatt, 240 volt AC output from this Ford Lightning pickup truck directly to the generator input of the Franklin Home battery system. Chuck, your house has all the power you need without a noisy generator. The 131 kilowatt hour battery in this truck can keep your lights on for several days, even during lousy weather like this.
Thanks for the boost, Franklin. Now I can be completely independent from the grid. I can't wait until all vehicles support this simple vehicle-to-home operating mode.
It's like capturing lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, but instead of a kite and a bottle, it's Franklin with your EV.
I want to better understand this world. So give us an example of how the utility is using it. You're in San Jose, PG&E territory, and a lot of folks have made, notably Sunrun has made a lot to do about their VPPs and the power market sort of opportunity that their customers get with interacting with their utility, PG&E. Can you talk a bit about why that's good for the utility and why it maybe isn't necessarily a favorable thing for the homeowner?
Well, from a ratepayer standpoint, where the problem is we have a shortage of power in the late afternoon and evening.
That's right.
That's this whole duck curve thing.
Yeah.
And so the VPPs, virtual power plants, are a way to take that 10 or 15 kilowatt hour battery in your home and help with that. But wouldn't it be great if you could take a 100 kilowatt hour battery, really kick butt and solve that problem?
Right.
So the utilities and Sunrun and some vehicle companies have said, hey, we can figure out a way through a special gateway that's controlled by the utility to allow vehicle owners to dump some of their energy in their vehicle to help the grid. And then they get a little bit of money for it. But they're not really thinking through all the details of the complexity of that. So every utility is going to have its own regulations. There's different codes. Every vehicle has different requirements as far as how you communicate. And so what's happened is there's a lot of standards, but nobody's really getting traction.
Right.
And so we took a different perspective and said, hey, there are some vehicles out there that have AC output. Yeah. AC is a standard. AC is what your house uses. AC is what these vehicles deliver.
Yeah.
And they have generators in there that are almost 10 kilowatts.
Right.
If you're able to find a way to connect that vehicle generator to your home, you solve the problem for the homeowner.
Yeah.
And there's two problems that the homeowners have. The first problem is they want backup power in case of bad weather.
That's right.
And Sunrun has done a good job with Ford to have a way to do that. And they showed a really cool video 3 years ago with the Mach-E about how Chevy Chase is powering his home. Really cool. But the homeowners don't want to pay a lot of money for that. And that's about $10,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah.
The bigger demand that customers have is they want to find a way to avoid those really high peak charges.
That's right.
San Jose, 62 cents a kilowatt hour from 4 to 9 p.m. And in the winter, my couple of batteries at home are kind of drained by about 6 or 7 o'clock. I don't have enough juice for that. So I'm even with an ESS battery system, I'm paying for that. But if you can somehow find a way to plug the battery in your vehicle, plug your truck right into the gateway, then you solve that problem.
Right.
And that's what we've demonstrated with Franklin. It's really important to emphasize we're helping customers offset that peak time, not just get power in a blackout. We do the power in a blackout thing also. It's just simply a matter of taking, right now we've tested it with the Ford Lightning. I think it works with the Cybertruck. GMC, Denali, and Sierra also have that generator output.
Right.
240 volt generator output. Plug that in to the generator input of a Franklin battery or other systems with that, and it just works.
So what you want to look for, you're solving for a vehicle that has that onboard generator. Do you feel like Ford and GM kind of saw this coming as an option when they created that integration?
Fascinating. And I've spoken to some people that were at GM and other companies. They were really, really persuaded by the utilities to take this DC output approach.
Okay.
Because that helps the utilities.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single discussion, actually it's probably deliberately avoided by the utilities, to talking about, hey, let's just put an inverter in the truck and make it. And so what accidentally happened, because Ford said, hey, these trucks, these Lightning trucks they're for contractors.
Right.
Contractors need job site power. Let's put a 9 kilowatt generator in there. And they did that with an inverter. And once they've done that, it just works.
So any application, Franklin Whole Home is one that you have direct experience with that has a generator input, can allow you to take the vehicle power from your mobile battery, assuming you've got a generator on board, and inject it into the generator port of the equipment. Can you explain that a little bit more? Is that common? Do you think it's going to become more common? I know it's one of those areas, like Franklin famously says, we do Generac better than Generac. It's a great marketing line. Is this something that we should expect to see coming down from other manufacturers?
I'd expect every ESS, every company that's making an energy storage system, to have that generator input, because it's a common request, right? What happens when my batteries die? I still have this generator. Can I plug the generator in and will that do the island? So they're able to do that.
Okay.
I think they're all going to do that. The challenge is with the vehicle companies.
Yeah.
Because the vehicle companies have been kind of incentivized by the utilities to do this. My position, my comment to them is, hey, you want to just sell more trucks.
Yes.
You want to sell more vehicles. And this is something that customers are going to demand. It has almost negligible impact on the warranty, the viability of the vehicle battery. But this is something that's going to help you sell more trucks and ultimately cars. So I think we're going to see more and more vehicles have a 240 volt inverter in there that's going to do this.
Okay, so you mentioned what I would consider to be contractor or large vehicles like the Denali or the F-150. Do you see mid-sized vehicles? And I can't fit an F-150 in my garage.
No, very few people have a garage that can fit an F-150.
Yeah.
But I expect once the vehicle companies see this as a customer demand, they will say, hey, I'm going to put a $300 inverter in the vehicle and add this capability.
Huge opportunity for the inverter manufacturer that takes those opportunities.
Yeah.
The thing that stands out for me, though, is if you want to get this sort of rate arbitrage, which is effectively what you're trying to do, how does a homeowner or a vehicle owner determine where they can find electricity for less than 60 cents a kilowatt hour?
It's funny. I went through this 3 weeks ago with my wife. She's driving my old Mach-E, and I wanted to make sure she knew where to charge if the house didn't have power or whatever. And you just drive around. We found prices ranging from 19 cents a kilowatt hour at a fast charging station to it's about 62 or 64 cents a kilowatt hour standard at all the roadside high-speed chargers.
Okay. Yeah. So you can find sub 30 cents, sub 20 cents maybe per kilowatt hour charging for the vehicle, which means you're able to have this portable power arbitrage effectively. And you come home and we'll show the video where you literally back your F-150 up and plug it into your home and juice your home with 19 cent a kilowatt hour power and offset 62 cents. That almost pays for the truck itself if you think about it.
We've had customers saying, I'm going to buy a truck because it's the cheapest per kilowatt hour for the battery.
That's
now,
right.
Here's my ultimate vision is where is electricity, when is electricity cheapest?
Yes.
It's in the middle of the day. It's actually negative pricing.
That's right.
Where are the vehicles parked? They're at work.
They're at work.
So if everybody were to be driving their vehicle to work, charging on a low-speed level 2 charger from rooftop solar at the school, at the parking lot, at the mall, at the government building, and then drive that vehicle home, they're basically driving that cheap power home.
Yeah.
And now they can use it at night when it's really expensive.
That's right. It seems to me, though, over time, the utility gets wise to that, and the cheap power at work tends to get more expensive. I wonder, then, are we headed into a world, in your view, that's widespread grid defection in a place like California, or is there a more altruistic integrated grid that we can look forward to?
Well, glad you mentioned grid defection. We talked about that. RMI, the Rocky Mountain Institute, did a paper on this about 10 years ago, and they basically forecasted 2 ways the grid could evolve. One is an integrated grid with net metering and good utility policies and really try to deliver the lowest cost of service. The other is towards grid defection, which is no net metering, high fixed costs, stranded assets, things like that, and high profits. We are clearly going down the path of grid defection, where the utilities are charging a ton of money, and when they charge so much money for electricity, the economic incentive is there for customers. I got to do something. And when the payback for that truck and the ESS from companies like Franklin is there, that's what they're going to do. And then you kind of say, what are the utilities going to do against that? It kind of reminds me of Spy versus Spy in Mad Magazine. What they're going to do is they're going to say, well, we're going to add really high fixed charges.
Yeah.
Or we're going to have income-based electricity costs.
That's right.
We'll see how that evolves.
Income-based, Jesus. So I wonder, in this, it seems to me like not only utilities, but private equity are treating batteries like the kind of thing that homeowners don't really know what to do with. So we'll let you, we'll borrow some space in a closet in your garage, and we'll take advantage of all the proper benefits, and because we know what we're doing here. And it's a bit, it's a bit overlordish in my opinion. I've mentioned tons that I don't think there's a world in the modern sort of view of the way that folks at the utilities certainly and in the banks are looking at these assets where homeowners have control. But you paint a picture where homeowners really do have control. There's grid defection. We have vehicle to home as a commonplace activity. How do the utilities prepare for that? Are we ready for that?
I have no idea. I think they are prepared, and the way they're going to prevent that is by adding fixed charges.
Yeah.
And then in California, there are actually what are called load defection charges.
Oh, really?
So if
they catch you not using electricity,
they're going to raise it. Great. So that they actually charge a lot of money. If you want to take your electric meter out, they're going to charge you a lot of money for that, because that's income that they're losing. But in the meantime, that's going to take a long time. I think we're really looking at situations where they're just going to try to raise the fixed costs.
You've been one of the pioneers of rooftop solar in California, and I would say in the U.S. I mean, we need to do a longer interview where we really get into Akina and Westinghouse and all the wonderful ways that you have championed solar and pioneered ways to finance it and install it. I wonder, in your view, as someone who's been at this for a while, do you feel like solar has a bad product, so to speak, in the moment?
Solar has a terrific product, but remind me who it was that said residential solar had a bad product. Do you remember the name of that guy?
Yeah, Jigger Shaw.
Jigger, that's right. So Jigger wrote an article a few weeks ago. He was on another podcast. He basically said residential solar has a bad product.
Right.
And he criticized residential solar for being $4 a watt installed rather than $1.20 or $1.80 that some friends can do. And I kind of looked at that. I know it's flat out wrong, and Jigger's kind of out there just pushing things. But I really wish Jigger would have concentrated on the real important issue, which is how much is solar costing the homeowner in terms of generated electricity? It's 10 cents a kilowatt hour on an amortized basis.
Yeah.
My utility solar is costing me on the average of 40 or 50 cents with 62 cents at the peak. So really, the utilities have a bad product because of technology changes, it's so much cheaper to put in residential solar, even at the average of $3.50 to $4 a watt in California.
Well, you've been a maven of the industry. I wonder, as someone who I imagine gets approached often to sort of mentor or give folks advice and guidance, do you feel like now is it still a good time to start a solar company in this kind of environment?
You know, it's funny. I was asked to do a session at NABCEP here on business planning for the solar industry.
Oh yeah, tell me.
And they asked me to do this in December. I'm like, okay. And now it's March, and the world has completely changed.
Totally different.
You know, one of my comments was, this is what Wayne Gretzky said, you want to skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it is. So you want to do some planning. But right now, we don't know what the puck is going on. It's just really crazy. A very, very hard time to predict what your business is going to be like. I'm always enthusiastic about starting a solar company at any time. We just have to be much more conservative and careful now about possible changes that may happen on the federal level.
I'd love to know, were there any particular gems you dropped during your NABCEP training on how to plan? You've done planning on taking a company public. You've integrated with famous companies like Westinghouse. What were some of the key pieces of advice that you gave in your class?
I kind of looked at the mistakes I made and kind of went through those. And some of the mistakes that I made that I suggest people don't make are, don't follow an irrational competitor. They may have more money, but they'll go out of business. Another comment really important from a financial standpoint is watch your gross margin very carefully. Make sure you have profit. I have something that I coined called Cinnamon's Law, which is the bigger an installation solar company gets, particularly as it handles multiple locations in multiple states, the less money they make. And that was one of the biggest issues I had at Westinghouse Solar. Every quarter we got bigger, every quarter our revenues went up, every quarter our losses went up because we were trying to cover so many different territories, all of which had different rules, regulations. We needed multiple layers of management, whatever. So those are some of the tips that I have for people.
Barry, I'd love to have you back for a longer discussion. We can get into all the things you did with Akina and Westinghouse and many, many more lessons learned, I'm sure, over time. Thank you for sharing all the things that you're tinkering with, in particular vehicle to home, and the way that you've integrated your F-150 with the Franklin Home system to arbitrage this 19 cent a kilowatt hour electricity for this really lowest cost battery for your home. I'm excited to show folks what that video looks like, and I'm really grateful to have time to have you on the show.
It's really great to be on the show again with you, and you're doing a terrific job for the industry, and your communication is fantastic for everybody. Thank you, Nico.
Appreciate it, my friend.